It's safe to say that without A Nightmare on Elm Street, there wouldn't be 1988's 976 Evil, at least in the form that we know it as today. If Freddy Krueger wasn't successful, then Freddy Krueger actor Robert Englund would have never gotten the chance to direct this movie. But is 976 Evil a ripoff of A Nightmare on Elm Street? Some media sites like Screen Rant claim that, yeah, it is a ripoff. So I'm here to settle the debate. And as we do most of the time when we talk about proclaimed Elm Street ripoffs, we'll dip our toes into the surface level similarities before we dive into the plot and really break down the differences. And of course, we'll end with a rating to determine if 976 Evil is truly a Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff or not. Welcome to the HellBound Horror Show. On paper, what do these two films have in common? Well, they both have gory teenage carnage from special effects supervisor Kevin Yagher. Yagher worked on A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, 3, and 4. Both have a villain that has long, sharp killing machines at the end of their fingers, and said villain uses funny one-liners when taking care of his victims.
Would it be possible to enter the game with a pair of hearts?
Jesus Christ!
Both have surreal dreamlike elements.
Get away from me!
Lezlie Dean plays a character in 976 Evil and also plays a character in the TV show Freddy's Nightmares, as well as playing Tracey in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. And both films have Robert Englund, and you even get some small Krueger-like laughs in 976 Evil. But that's it. And I had to stretch the truth on a lot of that just to make it work. And before we dive into the plots and see the differences, let's talk about 976 numbers, or other 900 numbers, depending on your area. It's crazy to think that there's going to be quite a few people out there who don't know what these are. 976 and other 900 numbers were all the rage in the 80s and 90s. They were basically premium numbers that were advertised through papers, on TVs, and magazines. You could call the different 976 numbers to talk to different celebrities like Santa Claus, maybe phone sex workers, get your horoscope, or even talk to Freddy Krueger himself.
So dial this number now if you dare. Talk to me live. Freddy Krueger is waiting just for you.
$2 for the first minute, 35 cents each additional minute.
They usually charged a high rate per minute, and I'm sure those phone bills caused a lot of arguments at home. So already, this movie is a product of its time, and the general idea is outdated. It's like if there was a movie about MySpace. Eventually, the population's gonna be too young to understand what us old people are talking about. 976 Evil is a story about Spike, who is a bit of a rebel who lives in the guest house of his religious aunt and his dweeby cousin Hoax. Now, Spike is in a bit of debt after losing some money in a poker game, so he calls a 976 number he found. It's a horoscope. The recording basically tells him to steal from his aunt, so he does. We don't want the audience to hate Spike, so technically the money already belongs to him from his dead mother, but he has to wait until he's 21 until he can claim it. While the aunt confronts Spike about stealing, fish begin to rain from the sky. Apparently this is a warning from God that something bad is about to happen. The next day, a reporter from Modern Miracle magazines comes to get the story of the falling fish. This guy is about to be our detective character. He's going to kind of solve everything behind the scenes. It's a bit weird though for a reporter to do this, especially for a religious magazine. He claims that he's also a private investigator at one point in the story. Robert Englund says that he only lies about being a PI though, to get the scoop of his religious stories. It's a bit weird. Anyway, Spike continues to call the evil number but decides not to follow through with the evil deeds. Well, this leads for the evil force of the phone to want to kill him. Luckily, the reporter saves his life, because the reporter never sleeps and becomes a Deus Ex Machina kind of character who is always looking out after this kid from a stupid story about falling fish. Okay. Hoax, that dweeby cousin that we talked about earlier, also begins to call the evil number and things start going his way. He goes on an impromptu date with Spike's girlfriend, but bullies continue to harass him. He does a seance and begins to gradually change, and as he becomes more evil, he begins to get revenge on all the bullies who did him wrong. It is up to the reporter, the high school principal, and Spike to stop Hoax and to save the world from the awful evil of racking up the phone bill. 976 Evil tried to ride the coattails of Freddy Krueger and become its own successful franchise. it failed. There was a sequel, but it was direct-to-video, and even though the sequel has a cult following, it never caught on financially. So what's good about 976 Evil? The film is decently directed by first-time director Robert Englund. Acting is pretty good for a cheap horror film. The cinematography is solid, lighting is good, set design is amazing, and was actually done by Robert Englund's wife. They met on set while making this movie, and there was a lot of R and N littered throughout the walls and the graffiti segments. R and N standing for Robert Englund and Nancy Englund, his wife. The best part by far is the special effects makeup. The metamorphosis of the hoax character is phenomenal. It's such a slow and organic transformation. Robert Englund wanted it to be asymmetrical, so one of Hoax's arm transforms first, giving a bit of weight to that side of the body. The gore is also great, although the film is a bit slow to get to that awesome red stuff. So what's wrong with 976 Evil? Why didn't it catch on and become a monster hit? I honestly think the script and the final edit are the biggest weaknesses. Making a movie about a quick fad or gimmick shortens the lifespan of the film. Some characters aren't fully fleshed out, and the worst thing about the movie is that there's no real main character. Yeah, you could say Spike is a lead, but due to cuts, there was a point in time where he's not even in the film for a 30+ minute span. The detective is only in and out, and his motives aren't super clear. Hoax could be the main character, at least that's how it feels after the halfway point, but he's barely in the beginning. It's all a bit messy. I enjoyed my time with 976 Evil, but the film is far from even. There are magical moments, but the overall experience is muddied in inconsistencies. It's a solid effort for a first-time director, and many of my complaints go far beyond Robert Englund's involvement. Important character developing moments were cut for the sake of runtime. That's not on Robert, that's on the studio. I recommend 976 Evil, but it's not going to be for everyone. It feels like a more modern version of Evil Speak, so if you like that 1981 classic with Clint Howard, then you'll love 976 Evil. Now, how much Nightmare on Elm Street DNA does 967 Evil have? I'd say it's about 10% on Nightmare on Elm Street and 90% its own thing, so yeah, pretty different. And that's all I have for tonight, so sweet dreams, and I hope I see you soon. Wow. You made it to the end of the video? You can cross that off your bucket list. What's your favorite Robert Englund film that isn't in the Nightmare on Elm Street series? I'd love to know. Good night.